Welcome to our fourth video for Audiology Capstone research. In this video, we'll learn how to use your keywords and subject terms to create search strings using Boolean logic, quotation marks, and asterisks where appropriate. The strategies we'll cover in this video can be used in nearly every database, and while the interfaces may vary between databases, you can use these same general strategies in all of them. Another thing to consider when you're searching different databases is that you can usually switch between basic and advanced search boxes. The advanced search boxes may show you additional search features, so you might try them out to see if they could be helpful. After coming up with your keywords, our goal is to enter them into the search box in a logical way so that they'll bring us relevant search results. Databases use Boolean logic, where you can use and or and not to connect your search terms, and you can use parentheses to group them. Let's talk about how to do this. So when you connect two search terms with and, you're asking the database to bring you results related to both of those search terms. This should focus your search results and bring you fewer search results because they need to be related to both of those search terms. In this example, you can see that we had about 17,000 results when we searched for central auditory processing disorder alone, but we narrowed it down to 16 results when we added and gaps in noise test. You want to connect unique concepts with and when you want search results that have both of these concepts. In our example, we want articles to talk about central auditory processing disorder and the gaps in noise test. If we search for those terms connected by and, our results should be related to both of those terms. So and is meant to connect unique concepts. A simple example of this is if you wanted to find coffee and croissants. So you could search for coffee and croissants and find results related to both. When you connect your search terms with or, you're asking the database to bring you search results that have either one or the other or of the search terms or both of the search terms. This brings you more results. Use or to connect synonyms or similar search terms. This is to make sure that you aren't missing relevant articles because you used one search term, but a relevant article uses a different word to describe your topic. In our example, we try searching for gaps in noise test and get 92 results. When we add or a temporal resolution test, we get 3,910 results. My understanding of this is that a gaps in noise test is a specific kind of temporal resolution test. And so this means that when we search for temporal resolution tests, we're probably getting search results from other types of tests, in addition to gaps in noise tests. However, it can sometimes be useful to search for these larger concepts. It's always good to try a search term and see how relevant the results are instead of assuming. Basically, in this case, we're asking the database to bring us results related to either gaps in noise tests or temporal resolution tests or both. So when we do this, especially since temporal resolution tests encompass more tests and seems to have a broader meaning than gaps in noise tests, we increase our search results dramatically. A very simple example of when you might use this would be if you're searching for the word coffee, but you'd also be happy if you found something about espresso. So you could search for coffee or espresso and find results about either one or both of them. You can use not to exclude search terms that you place to the right of not. In our example, we searched for children and found nearly 3 million search results. Then we added not adults and the number was reduced to nearly 2 million. I honestly hardly ever use not. The thing about it is that you have to be careful because you might accidentally exclude relevant search results when you use it. I find that I can usually get relevant search results by using and or only, so I don't recommend using it. So how do we put it all together? First, connect your synonyms with or and put them in parentheses. So in our example, we put gap in noise test or duration pattern test in parentheses. Then connect your unique concepts and groups of synonyms with and. So we have 3 unique concepts here: central auditory processing disorder and the name of the test, either gaps in noise test or duration pattern test, and the age group, children. Our search string, when we put it all together, looks like central auditory processing disorder and gaps in noise test or duration pattern test and children. This should bring us search results that are about all 3 concepts: central auditory processing disorder, one or both of the gaps in noise test, and duration pattern tests, and children. The next thing you can do is to add quotation marks about around logical word pairings when you want to find search results with those exact words in that exact order. When you put quotation marks around 2 or more words, it brings results that have those words in that exact order and excludes other results. In the example below, we'll see how when I searched for central auditory processing disorder without quotation marks, I found results that had those words, but not necessarily in that exact order, and so did not have the same meaning as central auditory processing disorder. When I searched with quotation marks around those words, I found results about central auditory processing disorder. However, sometimes quotation marks can be too limiting. For example, some relevant articles just refer to auditory processing disorder, so you'd miss those if you only searched for central auditory processing disorder in quotes. Also, I've seen gaps in noise tests written in a few different ways, so you might miss the different ways of writing it if you put it in quotes and search for it just one way. What I try to do in my searches is to do them with and without the quotation marks for different terms and see which way brings up the most relevant results. The last thing you can do is to add an asterisk at the end of a word to bring up results with any version of the word after the asterisk. So if I write child asterisk, I would get child or any word that started with the letters, CHILD. So I'd also get children or childhood. It's not usually necessary to do this, but sometimes it can be useful, so just to keep it in mind. So if we're going to put it all in a search string, we can look at our different search terms and our different mesh terms. And basically what we want to do is list all of the words and keywords and mesh terms for each unique concept. So in our example here, our first concept is children. So we would want to be searching for any word, anything about children or child. Next is central auditory processing disorder. We also have gaps in noise tests, the different tests, and diagnosis. So you essentially want to try your search strings and see how relevant the results are and keep changing it until you find relevant results. Don't be afraid to remove or add unique concepts. Sometimes if you have too many unique concepts connected by and, you get too few search results. You can see that I have 4 different search strings here. I just kept changing them by removing or adding parts until I felt like the results were relevant. So we'll try child and central auditory processing disorder and diagnosis in PubMed. We want to see how PubMed is interpreting our search results to make sure it's mapping them to the appropriate keywords and mesh terms. So to do this, we click Advanced under the search box. Next, we'll see the search history and details, and we'll click the chevron under the details to see our search string, or next to our search string. Here we can see how PubMed has interpreted it. So we can see it's using child as a mesh term and also different forms of the word child as keywords. It's mapped central auditory processing disorder to the language development disorders mesh term, and it's also searching for language development disorders as a keyword and for central auditory processing disorder as a keyword. Finally, it has mapped diagnosis to that mesh term and also the mesh subheading. And it's also searching for different forms of the word as keywords. So why is it good that PubMed is searching using both mesh terms and keywords? There's a small percentage of articles in PubMed that do not have mesh terms assigned, and so searching by keyword is required in order to find them. For example, it takes up to a month or 2 for articles added to PubMed to be indexed using mesh terms, and so some of the newer articles might not yet be indexed. One of the things we can see from this mapping is that we're getting over 8,000 search results, but a lot of them might not be relevant since it's mapping to the language development disorders mesh terms, which includes other language development disorders than just central auditory processing disorder. When we check the search results page and look through the articles and read some of their abstracts, we see that a lot of the search results don't appear to be on our topic. So next, we'll try to narrow down this search by adding and, gaps in noise test or temporal resolution test, or auditory processing, or auditory temporal ordering test, or duration pattern test or frequency pattern test. This should make it so we're only seeing articles that mention these tests. It narrows it down to 225 search results, and we can see it's mapping them to the names of the various tests. And using the keywords. This is far fewer search results, but we still don't feel that they're very relevant. So now what we want to do is change our search string so that we're searching all forms of the word using child with an asterisk as a keyword. Then, although our patient is 8 years old, we want to include studies on children ages 2 to 18, and so we want to add the appropriate mesh for those ages. We put central auditory processing disorder in quotation marks and search for that or auditory processing disorder in quotation marks. What this will do is only bring us search results that have either one or both of those phrases. It will only search them as keywords and will not map them to the language development disorders mesh. So we can see this brings us 319 search results. When we look at the search details, we can see that this is doing what we expect and that it's just looking for central auditory processing disorder in quotation marks or auditory processing disorder quotation marks as keywords and for those words in that exact order, and it's not mapped them to mesh terms. When we look at the search results, we see that they do look quite relevant. We could definitely just go with these search results, and indeed this search string might be what we end up going with, but we'll try one more search to see what we think. So we'll add the different tests that we're looking for. So we add and gaps in noise test or temporal resolution test or auditory temporal ordering test or duration pattern test or frequency pattern test. This brings us 61 search results. We can see it's searched for the names of the tests as keywords. The results do look pretty relevant, so we could look at these 61 results and select the relevant ones and then look through the 319 search results from our last search to see if there are any relevant ones that we missed.